Hey there, crafty friends. It's Tina here for Miss Ink Stamps. Thanks so much for stopping by the channel today. In today's video, we're going to be creating a couple cards featuring the adorable Queen of Hearts stamp set. Now, in this stamp set, you get 2 queens, you get 2 little bunnies, as well as lots of fabulous sentiments. And then there's also a rose image with a leaf. I'm also going to be using a background stamp. I want to use one of the grassy hills from the Meadow Scene Builders, and this Ins and Outs Marquis Stencil. There's 3 pieces to that set, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and stamp my images. I'm using some Copic friendly paper because I am going to be doing some Copic coloring today. And I'm going to go ahead and prep the paper with some embossing powder, anti-static powder tool, because I am going to be embossing my images. So I'm using VersaFine black ink. This is my favorite black ink to work with. It is not Copic friendly, which is why I emboss it using some clear embossing powder. And as long as you don't rub your marker tips over the lines, it works just fine. So first I'm going to make sure I get lots of powder on there because I want to get good coverage, and I'm going to heat my heat tool really hot so that I can melt that powder down. And I just love the texture that you get with an embossed image. It adds lots of dimension and interest to your card, and I know that when I gift a card using an embossed image, everybody seems to really like it. I'm going to tape off the edges of this stitched rectangle die because the Marquis stencil leaves a little border, and so I don't want the stamp to go to the edges of this card layer. So I'm just going to use the embossing powder again and do just like I did with the images, get that nice and covered and melt it down with my heat tool. I went ahead and stamped a bunch of images, and now I'm going to go ahead and use my Copic markers to get them colored. I'm going to color up a queen here, and I'm not going to show all the coloring because it does take me a while to color. So to save some time, I'm just going to be doing parts of the queen. The skin, I'm using the E11, the E00, the E000, and the E0000, along with the RV00 for the cheeks. I do double layer of Copic markers. I'm going to go in with my darkest color, the E13, for one little shadow layer there, go over the cheeks again, and then blend everything out. The image isn't too big and the areas are quite small, so you could potentially just do 1 layer of coloring. You don't have to do the double. I just like the way that it looks when it's blended out with 2 layers of color with the Copic markers. For the hair, I'm going to do some red hair. I'm kind of using the colors that are the samples on the actual stamp set. I really love the way that it looks with the red-haired queen. And so I'm using the E18, the E09, the E08, and then the lightest color is the E11. So just like the skin, I'm going to go in there with that second coat of color, just going over my colors one more time using the same transitions, the E08 and then the E11 for my lightest color, blending that out. Once I get her hair colored, I'm going to go ahead and work on the hearts. For my reds, I'm using for the darkest color the R59, blending it out with the R29. And then the next color would be the R27, and then the lightest red is going to be the R24. I do go ahead and do a second coat as well, so it's a nice deep red, which I love. This is one of my favorite combinations. Skipping forward, I did do the golds. The golds were the Y28, Y26, Y21, and the Y00. And then now to color her dress, I am also going to use some blacks. And for the blacks, my darkest is going to be the T7, blending out with the T5 and then the T3. And I will do 2 coats of this same combination. And so far, I really love the way that this queen is turning out. She's just so pretty. And I'm just kind of adding the lighter areas to the outside of her skirt there. I plan on leaving that border around there white, and I use the T0 and the C00 to make that gray. And here are all the images colored out, and I just think that they are so cute. I just love those bunnies so much. So now I'm going to go ahead and put these in my scan and cut to save some time. Get those cut out, and I'm not exactly sure which images I'm going to use yet at this time, but to build my scene I'm just going to go ahead and ink my background. I love how this stencil has lines that you can line up your cardstock. My layer here is just shy of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so I'm just lining it up right inside of the line that's there. I'm using some distress inks and greens, and I'm just going over the grass area, and I'm not being too careful, just adding a couple shades of green, and I'm making sure that I get the edges of the stencil. I'm also going to be using the Scene Builder Clouds stencil, and for my skies I'm going to do some pinks and orange and yellows. I'm kind of liking this combination for spring, and so I'm going to go ahead and start out with the pink and then add the clouds towards the top. This Spun Sugar is a nice light pink, which works really great for the sky. So my next color is going to be the orange, and this one is really juicy, so I'm just kind of tapping off so that it doesn't get too much color on my paper. And it's a very yellow orange. And then I'm going to add the squeezed lemonade, and I'm just doing the color pretty light on there because I want my sky to be more pale. I don't want it to be deep at all. Once I have my cloud background all stenciled and ready to go, that's when you're going to see the magic when you peel that stencil away and you get that nice frame. I just love the way that looks. There's another piece to the stencil set there, and it adds an additional frame around that inside shape. And so I'm just lining everything up. There are lines, like I said, to make sure that you get it the way that you want it. So I started out with a small brush and the mini distress ink because I wanted to do a black frame. Then I realized that it wasn't really getting black, and so I decided to go ahead and to use some Ink on 3 black ink to go over that to get a nice and deeper color black. And that ink pad is so juicy. I love it. It's the first time I've used the black. So now I'm going to go over with some of this clear glitter paste to add a little bit of texture and some sparkle to that black frame. And this paste is really juicy as well. So once I have that all filled, I'm going to go ahead and peel it through. Now I did get a little escape towards the bottom, but I'm not too concerned with that at this time. So I'm going to do a second card, and I'm just using some pink Distress Oxide inks. I'm going over with the lightest pink, the Spun Sugar, just to get a little bit of color on my panel. Then I'm going to use this Hand Drawn Hearts stencil and the Kish Flamingo to add some darker pink hearts onto the panel. Very simple background, and so this card is going to be more of a clean and simple look, but I love the little hearts because it goes really well with the Queen of Hearts. So once I get the background the way that I want, I'm going to prep it with the anti-static powder tool and get my sentiment stamped on there. And again, I'm going to use the VersaFine black ink, the clear embossing powder, and then I'll melt that down with my heat tool. So I love the way that that sentiment looks. I'm going to do the same thing on my second card panel, and the same sentiment, inking it up using that clear embossing powder and melting that down. So far I have lots of texture on these cards, and I really love the way that they're turning out. I'm going to tape off my sentiment and add some gold sparkly splatter on my panel to match with the crown on the Queen's head. I'm also going to use some glimmer mist and splatter that on there as well. And I have a black card base, and I'm going to just use some liquid glue to get that adhered down. And these are the images that I chose for this card. I'm going to glue the Queen down with some liquid glue and add some double-sided foam tape to the little bunny. And The bunny's going to pop up, adding a little bit of dimension since the bunny will be right in front of the queen. So that little edge there where the that liquid sparkle gel came kind of oozed over, I decided to use the rose to just kind of cover that up a little bit, and I cut out some more leaves and figured I'd just prop up the roses on either side because that really coordinates well with the theme. And I think that that gave a nice finishing look to my card. I'm adding a red gem to the crown and some red glitter marker to the roses and the little hearts to add extra sparkle. And I just really love the way that that turned out. It's so cute. For my second card, I'm also going to use a black card base, but I'm going to frame my white panel with this piece of red cardstock. And that's going to help the red on my queen really pop. Getting that glued down with some liquid glue, and then I'll also add some foam tape to that little bunny and glue down my queen using liquid glue as well. I did color her staff, and I added a little pink heart on there, so I'm just going to glue that over the top of her hand and then pop up that bunny. And then that pretty much was going to complete my card. I'm going to embellish it as well using another rhinestone for the crown and use that glitter marker for the little hearts. And her staff I want to add some sparkle to as well, so I'm adding some clear sparkle. And that completes my second card. So here are the two cards that I created. And I want to thank you so much for stopping by today. I hope you like this video. I hope you like my cards. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Until next time, everyone, happy crafting. Bye for now.